quiet suburb of Enfield, London, in August 1977, a story unfolded that would send chills down spines worldwide. What began as small disturbances quickly escalated into one of the most documented and debated paranormal cases in history. This is the chilling true story of the Enfield Poltergeist. Peggy Hodgson, a single mother, lived at 284 Green Street with her 4 children: Margaret, 13, Janet, 11, Johnny, 10, and Billy, 7. Life was hard, but Peggy managed. That was until one quiet evening when everything changed. Janet and her brother Johnny were getting ready for bed when they heard strange knocking noises. Peggy dismissed it as the kids playing around, but then the knocking grew louder, coming from inside the walls. That night, the family would experience their first taste of the unexplained. The next night, things escalated. Janet and Margaret screamed when their beds began shaking violently. Peggy rushed in, only to witness a chest of drawers move across the room, as if pushed by an invisible force. When Peggy tried to push it back, it wouldn't budge. Terrified, the family fled to their neighbors, seeking help. But what was happening in the Hodgson home was just beginning. Unable to explain the events, Peggy called the police. Officer Carolyn Heaps, one of the responding officers, later reported witnessing a chair slide across the floor, on its own. Despite this, there was nothing they could do. Desperate for answers, Peggy contacted the press. Journalists from the Daily Mirror came to the house and, like the police, saw objects flying through the air and heard unexplainable knocks. The story quickly gained traction, drawing the attention of paranormal investigators. Enter Maurice Gross and Guy Lyon Playfair, 2 members of the Society for Psychical Research. Gross and Playfair spent months documenting what they called one of the most compelling cases of paranormal activity ever recorded. They saw marbles and toys flying through the air, doors slamming shut, and even witnessed Janet levitating off her bed. These phenomena were captured in photos, audio recordings, and eyewitness testimonies. But the most disturbing element of the Enfield Poltergeist was the voice. Janet began speaking in a deep, gravelly tone, claiming to be a man named Bill Wilkins. Bill said he had died in the house years earlier from a brain hemorrhage while sitting in a chair. His details were later confirmed by Bill's own son, who said his father had indeed lived and died in the house. Experts were baffled. Medical professionals said it was physically impossible for an 11-year-old girl to produce such a voice for extended periods without damaging her vocal cords. Of course, not everyone believed the Hodgson family. Skeptics argued that the events were a hoax. Janet was even caught faking some small incidents, like bending spoons. However, she and her family insisted that the majority of the activity was real. Eyewitnesses, including police officers, journalists, and neighbors, supported their claims. Over 30 people reported seeing or experiencing something paranormal in the house. In 1979, after 2 years of terror, the activity suddenly stopped. Some believe it was due to a priest blessing the house, while others think the poltergeist simply moved on. Today, Janet Hodgson, now an adult, stands by her story. She admits to faking a few incidents to test the investigators, but insists that 98% of what happened was real. The Enfield Poltergeist remains one of the most well-documented paranormal cases in history. Was it a hoax, mass hysteria, or genuine proof of the supernatural? We may never know. The Enfield Poltergeist challenges what we know about the unknown. Whether you believe or not, the story of 284 Green Street continues to haunt the imaginations of millions.